Hello friends, happy Valentine's Day or Galentine's Day to all my gals out there. Today I'm coming at you with a little book recommendation video. Not just any old normal, this is what you need to be reading, this is what you should read this month. No. We're in the month of love, baby. We are doing what you should read for the month of Valentine's Day. I don't know, I just thought this was very fun. I'm a romance gal, and I know a lot of you out there are as well. I just wanted to share with you guys some of the books that I think would be super fun to read, especially for the first time in the month of February with the season of love, you know, like all the sweetness and the kindness and such going on. So I have a stack of books that I want to talk to you guys about that are pretty much all romance. They're for sure romance, all of them, as well as a few books that I've been really wanting to read but haven't read yet, and I think would probably be good picks for the month of February. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the first book that I have for you guys is called One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love this book, you guys. I read it, I want to say maybe last summer or maybe early fall. I can't quite remember when I read this one in particular, but I could not stop thinking about this book for weeks, months. Like, I still think about this book. She just writes so beautifully, and the way that she tells a story is unlike any other. I will recommend her until the day I die. I'm obsessed. Her way of telling a love story as well is just so unique and unlike any other author that I've read. And the stories are just, they're not just cheesy romance novels. There is depth to the relationships in her stories. She's incredible. So this book in particular, I think would be a great pick for the month of February. This girl named Emma marries her high school sweetheart, Jesse. They are just go people. They love to travel the world together. They are not homebodies by any means. They just love experiencing new things together. Jesse ends up on a work assignment on their 1-year anniversary, and the helicopter that he's riding on while on his work assignment ends up missing. So obviously Jesse is gone forever. They looked for several months and never found him. But eventually Emma moves back home after this life that she's had away from home with Jesse. She ends up running into an old friend from high school. The relationship that Emma ends up finding with this friend, Sam, is a completely different type of relationship than the kind that she had with Jesse. Long story short, Emma and Sam end up getting engaged, and Emma feels like she is finally where she is meant to be, being engaged to Sam. She's kind of moved past everything that happened with Jesse in this new phase of her life, and lo and behold, Jesse is alive. They end up finding Jesse. Jesse has come home. Emma is torn between her relationship that she had with her husband, Jesse, and then her fiance, Sam. Their relationships are completely different from each other. Like, they couldn't be further apart. Emma trying to navigate what next steps look like, how she needs to move forward, who she needs to move forward with. It's just so good and unlike any story that I've ever read. I highly recommend this book. It's not your typical lovey-dovey romance by any means, but just the story of Emma trying to navigate this insane situation and relationships, not just with these two men, but like her family as well. It's so good. Highly recommend reading this for the month of February. Okay, the next recommendation that I have for you guys is called Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. Before I get into describing Yours Truly, I do want to say that there's another book that goes along with this one called Part of Your World that Abby wrote as like a duology situation with this book. That is actually on my TBR for the month. I will be keeping you guys updated on Part of Your World. I did read Yours Truly first. Some people say you should read Part of Your World first because it was released first, but I don't think it makes a big difference just with it being a duology rather than like a prequel sequel situation. Yours Truly, you guys, I don't laugh out loud at books very often, but I laughed out loud a lot with this one. Abby just has such a fun way of writing. She is hilarious. She is relatable. I've only read this book by her, but I have heard that she always finds a way to touch on mental health. She always throws in like a cute pet or dog or something like that in her books as well, which is like so fun and heartfelt. This book is I wouldn't say enemies to lovers. It is a fake dating trope, which is super fun. So if you're into that, I love it, especially when it's like a rom-com style story. This is about a doctor named Brianna. Hey girl, hey. Who is actually just going through a divorce. She's also trying to help her brother out with finding a kidney donor. She's just got a lot of stuff on her plate. A new doctor starts working at the hospital that she is at. They have to be in close proximity with each other all of the time. When Brianna and Jacob first meet at the hospital, they do not enjoy each other very much. It's hilarious the way that Abby writes their story and how they met and their perception of each other. What's really sweet about this book, and the reason why I'm recommending it, is because Jacob actually deals with a lot of anxiety and like mental health issues, and it's just displayed beautifully in this book. And the way that he is able to communicate best to Brianna to kind of get her perception of him kind of switched around because he's being misunderstood is by writing her a letter. Ends up being kind of their thing. They start writing letters back and forth. It's so wholesome and so good. I can't rave about this book enough. I recommend it to everyone that I know. Like truly anyone that's like, hey, give me a good book rec. Points if it's a romance. This is probably my first book that I'm recommending to you. This book is like 10 out of 10, 6 out of 5 stars for me. I love this book. Highly recommend this one, especially for this month. If there is a book that you should read out of all the ones that I'm recommending to you today, please read this one if you haven't already. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Okay, next up is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. I'm sure you guys have heard so much about this book. I feel like this is everyone's go-to wholesome romance. This book is told in a then and now timelines situation, so it's kind of broken up. You go back and forth from the past to the present. Macy is a pediatrics resident. She's currently engaged and trying to plan a wedding, and her life is just totally hectic. In the midst of all the craze, she ends up running into her first love, Elliot. Macy and Elliot grew up next door to each other at her summer cabin. They were best friends before anything else. It is such a wholesome, sweet story of how they grew so close to each other, but then something happens in the past that eventually leads to them no longer talking. There is miscommunication in this book, but it is miscommunication done right for a romance. I have no words to explain how sweet this book is. Both Macy and Elliot are book lovers, and they kind of grow a bond in that together throughout their young lives. You end up throughout the book figuring out why things happened and ended the way that they did from their past and why they haven't talked for so long. It's so good. That's really all I have to say. This one is just a really good, wholesome, sweet book. Highly recommend Love in Other Words. Next up, we have Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I love me some Stephanie Garber. This book is actually a part of a series. I'm currently reading the second book of this series right now, if you watched my TBR video. So if you're looking for a very easy, just dip your toe in the water type of fantasy read that has a bit of romance behind it, I highly recommend this book. I also did a book and bake video on this book in particular if you want to go back and watch that. If you want more of an in-depth review on this one, Evangeline is the type of girl that just loves love. She grew up always wanting extravagant, happy ending, only to have her heart broken by Luke, her first and only love. Long story short, Evangeline ends up striking a deal with the Prince of Heart, Jax, who, let me just say, I love me some Jax, and I think you will too. When she strikes this deal, a lot ends up going down. Lots of things end up happening. I can't really say any more than that. This book is just a fun ride more than anything. I'm around like page 100 of The Ballad of Never After, which is the second book in this series. I am loving it even more. Highly recommend starting this if you want to switch it up and maybe not do a straight romance, but you want like a little sprinkle and you want to dip your toe into fantasy. Now, you guys know this would not be the month of February and a book rec video for Valentine's Day if I did not include the one, the only Emily Henry. Yes, I have read all 4 of Emily Henry's books. I have 3 of them physically. People We Meet on Vacation is one that I have on my Kindle, but I need to get it physically so I can finish my little collection here of Emily Henry. Truly, any of her books, you guys, if you want a fun, fast-paced, and easy romance, literally any of her books will do. I'm telling you right now. Emily gives me very similar vibes to Abby Jimenez's writing, where not only is she amazing at giving a story based on just romance, but she's amazing at giving side stories as well with other characters, other friends and family. It's incredible. If you want a good mix of both, you want the romance and you also want the friendships, I highly recommend Happy Place by Emily Henry. This book just released last year. I'm so excited as well because she has another book releasing called Funny Story. I want to say she's releasing that in March, if not April of this year. I cannot wait to get my hands on it. Happy Place is so beautifully written. I don't think I've ever read a book that did friendships and miscommunication maybe in friendships as well as she did in this book. If you want a light-hearted, fast-paced, easy to read, just a sweet book that isn't so heavily based on the romance, I highly recommend this one. My all-time favorite Emily Henry book, though, I do have to say, is Beach Read. This book is another 6-star out of 5 for me, and it always will be. I'm planning on doing a reread of this in the next couple of months as well. Honestly, maybe I'll do like a whole reread of Emily Henry books in the next couple of months whenever her new book releases. I think that would be super fun to do a first read of Funny Story, which will be releasing soon, as well as rereading all of her other books. Maybe I'll make that a TBR in the next couple of months. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I think that would be super fun because I love me some Emily Henry. She is one of my favorite authors of all time. We have January and Augustus, who are both authors, but they are complete and total opposites, like polar opposites, which is very fun to read. I don't really want to give too much away on this book because I could do a whole deep dive on it. I just love it so much. This is another book that I recommend all the time to anyone that needs a book rec, especially when it comes to a fun romance. They're basically both in ruts of writing. They're having writer's block. They come up with this challenge for each other to get them out of their creative ruts. January ends up being challenged to write a very serious, in-depth, research-based novel, and Augustus, who typically writes that sort of book, is forced to write a happy one. Their journey along this challenge with each other, this deal, is so much fun. So yeah, out of all of Emily Henry's books, this one is definitely my number 1. Those are all of my book recommendations for the month of February, but I do have a couple books on my TBR that I would love to read if I'm able to finish up my TBR that I already have. The first book that I really want to read before the end of February is Better Than the Movies. If I'm able to finish off my TBR before the end of the month, this will for sure be a mood read for me. I think this one is probably a great pick for Valentine's Day and the month of February. The next book that I think would probably be a really good pick for February, if I had to guess just based on what I've heard of the book, would be Flawless by Elsie Silver. I've heard amazing things about this series. I believe it's a cowboy romance. And I don't think I've read a cowboy romance before, actually. I think this one would be a super fun read for Valentine's Day. Another book that I am dying to read is Magnolia Parks. This is also part of a series, the Magnolia Parks universe. Sara Carrolli loves this whole series, so I cannot wait to read this, and I think this would be another really great pick for the month of February. The last book that I think would be probably a really good pick for February would be The Wish by Nicholas Sparks. This is one of his newest releases and one that is very highly anticipated, especially for me. Love me some Nicholas Sparks. I used to be obsessed with Safe Haven. I've read that book multiple times. It's actually been forever since I've read that book, but I used to love the book as well as the movie. Hello, so good. This book I think would probably be a really good pick as well for this month. Okay, that's pretty much it for my recommendations for Valentine's Day in the month of February. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down below if you guys have read any of these books and what your thoughts are. I'm very intrigued to know. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I would love to have you guys here with me as we chat all things books. This is so much fun. Happy Valentine's Day. Love you gals. Bye.